And let's hope for that kind of scenario rather than, you know, a Reynolds versus Bly Redux. That would kind of suck. As we start off in the bottom right-hand side from Cosmos, it is our blue Terran player, souL.
In the top left, as the red Protoss, he is Liquid MaNa. MaNa really has been doing very well lately. I mean, he used to have occasional games where he looked super solid and then just have games where it was really questionable. Or he just really didn't look super great, but at least he was consistently okay. And that was kind of like the two things we bounced between. But it feels like lately he's doing very well consistently. A place that I feel like he hasn't been in years. This guy has been playing since the very beginning of StarCraft 2, so I can't account for all 10 years, but it feels like a new MaNa in some ways.
No, it does, right? Like, it feels like something's clicked lately, and all the matchups suddenly make like a lot more sense to him or something, because I think it's exactly that, right? Like, he had those runs, like when he got to the finals of Austin, and everyone's like, wow, MaNa's so good. And did MaNa really do anything for the rest of the year? Not really. Like, he just sort of disappeared again. And it was around the start of this year I started realizing, like, yeah, MaNa is, like, consistently winning. And it's like he consistently makes the playoffs, and he's consistently qualifying for things, and yeah, he really also is on, like, a better run now, and that makes you very excited to be a MaNa fan, right? Because it makes him, like, a really tough opponent for anybody, because he's very, very good. He can be one of the best, and now he can do that almost consistently. Oh yeah, that's really fun to watch.
It's been a longer process for him, but it is kind of one of those terrifying prospects of a guy who he's like kind of cheesy first. And it's like, I say cheesy, and I'm trying to be like really light in the word cheesy, but a little cheesy, a little weird first. And then he solidifies the rest of the things, the macro, the micro, the strategies, whatever. Like, I mean, that just actually makes it feel like a very potent player in a tournament series, like they can bring out anything and they can still be really solid behind it too. So I think he's going to do well, like, overall in this tournament. souL, that's the other side of things, isn't it? souL has been very stable on the ladder, apparently, the memes aside, but has been just inconsistent / not up to par, not up to a standard when it comes to the tournaments. And he's in that position once again here for DreamHack Fall. So we'd have to start the comeback basically by defeating MaNa, which, I just feel unlikely. We did just get the Scout and the Stargate, which is nice. Stargate being probably the, second most popular opener, I suppose, behind that Twilight Council. So that's a nice little Scout. Still gonna go into a Wood of Mine drop, but maybe have the Wood of Mine burrow first into that mineral line.
Yeah, it's definitely gives you that little bit of defense initially early on. So I like that we get just like a Stargate opening here from MaNa. Really sets the pacing of the game off to like a nice steady one. Shouldn't be anything too aggressive right away. And you can see souL, he's going to go straight to Tech Lab after that one Widow Mine. So he knows about the Stargate, and that's really important because now he can build a Viking, build a Cyclone. And that can put him in a position where he can actually push across the map a little bit at times and maybe even deny like a super fast third base. So yeah, really good defensively here for souL. MaNa is going to choose to go into Phoenix next, so there will be that continuation with Phoenix. And as he goes into the Robo, that generally suggests further down the line the idea of going into probably Colossi as well.
Yeah. I said Widow Mine dropped just because it's like a habit, but I don't really want to drop against Stargate.
I mean, like, it's one of those things where if you see the Stargate soon enough, you just may as well switch out, right? Like, his intention absolutely was to Widow Mine drop at first, no doubt about it, but, that's the power of getting the Stargate Scout. He drops an Armory, though, so any idea what this Armory might be for in particular?
Well, I know you're just not thinking about it. This is just souL. Right? Like, he was doing this all the time. On this map, I mean, I think you were hosting, if I recall correctly, was the weird, like, this opener into Supreme late game against, like, I think it was, like, Skillers or someone? I don't know. Anyways, this is, like, kind of one of those things I mean when I say that souL has a unique take on PvT. So one of the things that he does in a unique way is he gets the Armory first and foremost to give those Widow Mines invisibility, and then even goes into some faster drilling claws. The other unique thing is that I feel like more so than any other top tier Terran, he is more than willing to go into the Liberator stage of things, which has its ups and downs. I'll put it there, I guess, and we'll see if it happens in this game on Death Aura, which does provide a nice defensive setup. Usually provides a lot of macro games, so I think we might get there. But he is going to try and make the Widowmine Drilling Claws drops work, even against the Stargate opener.
Which is why it's so weird, right? Because I think 9 times out of 10 I watch souL drop this armor and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That's how souL likes to play. But you do it when there's like Phoenix out.
Yeah.
And this late on, like, it's not like he was committing to it and then the Phoenix came out. He's like, oh, well, I'm already halfway there. It's like, he knows Phoenix are coming up. And then he says, let's do Drilling Claws anyway. That's why I'm kind of like, oh, that's so interesting. Because that's now a big investment that's going to slow down stuff like Stim Pack and Combat Shields. And there's no guarantee it's necessarily going to pay off, even less likely to pay off when there's no, when there's the Phoenix on the map to help defend.
Yeah, that makes sense. I understand your confusion now, yeah. But I feel like he has done this, though. Like, he's been up against Stargate opener.
I think he has as well. It's just, you gotta kind of, like, still question it a little bit, right? Because maybe there's something even weirder on the way.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I get you. I do think it's going to set up for that longer game that can be a little weird with the whole, like, the super late game. As with this opener and with souL's insistence on it too, like, this is a souL special basically. MaNa should predict it. Maybe one of the reasons he went to Stargate, amongst just it's also a nice build to get. Oh god, he finds a medevac. Nicely done.
He's gonna lose the Phoenix though.
Okay. Yep.
Wow.
Okay. And then he also scouted it because he's got a pretty fast observer. So MaNa gets into this like 3-base saturated position that could be torn down by Widowmines if they're not being canceled. You're just not even getting in there. And MaNa is feeling so confident against, I believe, souL. souL's way of playing TVP that he's even grabbing a 4th Nexus already. Like, yeah, more power to him. I think he's absolutely right to do so.
He's completely shutting this down. A little bit of a shame about the Phoenix in the middle of the map. Nice from souL to have the Cyclone and the Vikings nearby to help. Other than that, it's just been all about kind of MaNa so far. Now these Widowmines get in, Phoenix lift them up, and that's going to be no bueno. And that's also going to be a dead medevac as well. So complete shutdown as souL. I mean, this is why, the Armory is such a like, what are you doing, souL? Because in theory, MaNa has all of the tools necessary to defend this. And this was what, 2 medevacs and multiple Widowmines for a Phoenix? And that Phoenix loss was so avoidable as well, so.
I guess the Oracle died as well to like a defensive Widowmine, or the Cyclone or something. But yeah, it's absolutely a better trade for MaNa. The actual resources lost might not be like a humongous difference. It's really not. But the pacing of the game feels so good for the Protoss. But this goes into the next stage of souL TVP, which is that he is one of the Terrans who is willing to accept this. Because he does this opener, it's going to push off any attack anyway, so he kind of has to be ready for this. But even in some other versions of TVP that he plays, he's willing to just be like, yep, super late game, all right. I want to give him credit for that and say, like, this could be a place that he thrives in. But even though he's one of the Terrans that does it reliably, like, a lot, I'm actually, like, not super convinced of his late game. Which I'm a little sad to say, I suppose. Because I do want souL to do really well. But it feels like, specifically in tournaments, too. When this is his 3rd Protoss that he's up against, I don't know, it's been figured out a lot. MaNa should be feeling very comfortable in control of the game, recognize the follow-up as soon as he sees the 4th base, too. As soon as there's no attack on him, he's going to be the one to posture, set up attacks, set up run-bys, and then also take the map behind that.
Well, as you have the setup from souL continuing, it's going into that later game, right? It's going to where he kind of likes to play. But like you say, it feels like MaNa is kind of very aware of this. He's already getting all of his own upgrades up, and he's not pushing in too soon. And you got a good little late game TVP going on. It's fun because you don't usually see this kind of accelerated late game from both players. I mean, souL's already dropping down a fusion core, for example. So it's been a very, with the way that they're both playing, it's just turned out to be very passive. So we're really just going to get like a full-on clash of like, a full-on late game versus late game. No, like, oh, you lost a base early or something, and I'm capitalizing on that. So, yeah, I like it a lot, as that's a Marine Scout in the army positioning. And MaNa is approaching, being maxed out already.
The only thing I'm going to nitpick is that I wish that MaNa had thrown on Double Forge. It is a bit risky on top of, like, a faster 3rd and one of the fastest 4ths he got. But he actually could have gotten away with Double Forge faster. He's on it now, but as I said, it's a very small nitpick. They both understood and predicted the supreme late game-ness. And they're both correct about that. triple drop, making sure it's not scouted by an observer by scanning there. It might accidentally be scouted by Lucian Phoenix or even this probe Zealot coming by. It's a Zealot.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
What a nice scout that is, right? I mean, that's amazing information to have. He's going to force it to unload. I mean, now you know where it is as well. So you can see MaNa's army looking to try and catch it, unload it, and trying to take a fight with it. So, yeah, really nice catch from MaNa. And that's just a huge drop that he doesn't have to worry about anymore. It's a Widowmine shot, but other than that, he's actually continuing to push through. And he's actually going to get up on top of this base and nothing really immediately in position. That means that MaNa should be able to control the choke points with the Colossi, and that makes it very hard for souL to fight this. And with the force field, wow.
Yep, those force fields are pretty brutal. The Vikings do jump on top of the Colossus, I guess, where MaNa recognized they would, so we didn't have a Stalkers quite in position for that. Maybe a little more awkward than we predicted, but actually, maybe even a bit of a wash. That's a very weak Protoss army. As souL does have to go through a choke, it's still going to be tough for him to chase after this, but he got the EMPs, he got one, almost two Colossus, and he is still holding strong on the high ground with an even army supply.
Yeah, once the storms disappear from MaNa, it doesn't feel like there is much power in this army at all, right? And definitely falls apart very quickly if the right option is there. souL is again going to be a little out of position. MaNa walks into the planetary and two Widowmines, though. He does blink in right away, protect the Colossi, gets liberated while he goes for it. Now he's losing High Templar, which are turning around to Storm when they don't even have energy. And MaNa is losing a lot as this Bioforce continues to just shred. And wow, TMP's up this high wreck ground, and souL just says, you know what, you don't have anything here really, so he's going to kill everything. This fell apart so quickly.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Now, MaNa has been replacing the army. It still was a faster bopping of that army than any Protoss would feel comfortable with, but he was replacing it during the little run around. So disruptors are in play. 3 of them, they're a bit alone, and liberators are available. He was building them during the attack, and the Stalkers got taken out. The liberators might start to thrive a little bit, but a counterattack that's actually not being cleaned up. The command center is not being repaired by enough units. The command center goes down. That leaves souL still on 3 bases. MaNa's still 4 bases now. As his 4th goes down, he had a 5th on the other side.
Yeah, killing an orbital's massive. That's the sort of thing that's just not meant to happen when some Zealots and Stalkers show up. Like, yeah, kill the SCVs, but the base should lift up and get out of there. Obviously, souL is going to kill this base. He's probably going to recancel it as well. But MaNa's still working through the top side of the map, and souL is also taking bottom left. He's also replacing the base he just lost. He's about to be on 5 bases as long as he can control that one Zealot, and that's obviously something he should be able to do. So he's going to end up in a good spot here as these disruptors trying to find the army, and this one is actually just going to go straight down. I like his play so far. souL's been pretty good against those disruptors and dodging away from them, knowing where they are. He's also been great with the EMP. He's always hitting dead center on the army.
He's had +2 on those liberators, by the way. So unfortunately, the number of them didn't end up being truly threatening. The 4 initially was like kind of scary, but they got whittled down. But having +2 on them does 2-shot those Stalkers. They're more powerful. They're as powerful as you'd want them to be, but a lot faster than most TVPs, is how I'll put it. That can be scary. And MaNa will have to consider that whenever he engages when the Liberator count is high. But that was, I mean, it was kind of sloppy on both sides a little bit. MaNa obviously got punished for the first attack, but then souL maybe overstayed his welcome. Obviously losing that orbital was bad, but also losing some of those medevacs, has to replace those first. Now back into the Liberators. They both take a chill pill. So it's going to be 6 bases to 5 as MaNa captures the middle left again, it seems. And now he's going to apply pressure again.
Yeah, MaNa moving down. He's going to pick off these rocks to begin and open the map up. What a turnaround for MaNa after he was kind of chased away and losing everything. Really able to put some hurt back on souL. And I guess the big thing is MaNa never really lost probes, right? You know, he lost a base. That was it. He never really lost workers. souL did take a big worker hit. And now here we are. There's MaNa. He'll back away. He's also started 3-3. So from MaNa's point of view, he's heading into further upgrades, which will only aid him. And yeah, we kind of sit back and chill out a little bit as storms continue to drop. This Marauder wins the fight as Widowmine drops somewhere, just killed 10 probes.
I think on that transfer, maybe? Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, the calming down a little bit. We see that souL actually missed his Marauder slow, so he's getting that set up. And he should start his 3-3 soon. That's a bit of a problem. I think they both are going to start their 3-3 when things just went awry. And now it's the MaNa remembering to start that up a bit faster. souL are going to lose like 16 probes here, but I guess they're on enough nexus it doesn't really matter. Looking more towards the fight. Who's going to control the fight? That Marine won that flipping fight, didn't it?
Wow, this Bioforce, though, there's so much of it in the upper right, and MaNa's army is so out of position, so souL's backstabbing drops, but doing a fantastic job here, as you do see. I think it was that, I don't know what that drop was, but work is going down here, there, and everywhere as Zealots and Stalkers continuing around. We're going to be having the, yeah, it was a Storm drop, as another 8 probes go down. This
That was
game
nice.
you know, he just said it was a bit of a calming moment or two, but it really has picked up again. Getting a little bit crazy. This Widowmine going to get another connection on Stalkers. Softening some up. Will go down, but MaNa chases everything from souL back. So suddenly souL's on the left side. And this is what souL's doing so well. He's really rotating from the left side to right side very nicely, time and time again. And that's a nice storm from the one high temple, but it won't be enough to save this base.
MaNa's willing to base trade a little bit, it looks like, but Liberators are really important in these situations. 2 of them in a very nice place. Going to get a lot of shots off. Disruptors just being used. Every single one of them was just used, but that was all of souL's army. He was really depending on the Liberators, which are finally taken down. They were doing some extreme damage. souL is not going to continue this base race. He is going back home, but this is now, I think, more awkward for souL. He's going to be going up his own ramp with his Liberators potentially being sniped by the Stalkers. Actually, MaNa's not taking the opportunity. He's going to chill. He's going to retreat. All right. Okay, then a little literal base for a base there. Plus, I guess, the middle top. But now that's finally been rebuilt. So back to even supply. MaNa, I guess, in the economic lead once he has all of his Nexus up. And souL even going to be going into nukes. That's the late game TVP right there. Oh, yeah.
Yup. Nuke's going to make just one extra thing for MaNa to have to look at when he's, you know, out around on the map is, ooh, disruptor shops finding an SEV train, and still wants to take a forward base. Yeah, absolutely right. I think the nuke's like that. Just a nice little addition, and something else you got to worry about that you absolutely can mess up against these Liberators. They're taking so many storms. They're on the verge of going down as a Oracle will refresh the Revelation. Keep an eye on things. Oracle goes down, but MaNa's obviously spread out. He knows this army's here. He is somewhat ready to fight. The problem is with the disruptors, he doesn't want to be the one that's like pushing in. He wants to be the one that's kind of being pushed in too.
This phase is what I'm usually scared of when I watch late game TVP, where the Protoss player is kind of, you know, keeping tabs on every portion of the army and forcing them to move their Liberators. It was a phase that was pushed back because of the awkward attack into the third, 7 minutes ago. souL actually had an opportunity to be on the other side of the map. He was actually starting to push, but as the momentum shifts back into MaNa's favor, okay, we're good. As it shifts back into MaNa's favor, he's going to be like constantly on the lookout for snipes of the Liberators, constantly running by with Zealots and BTs, potentially in the future, I guess. Still no Dark Shrine. And it gets really hectic really fast, but I do love the nukes. I mean, anything to get something happening on the other side of the map so that MaNa isn't just paying attention to the Liberators and where they are.
There's a few extra Stalkers finishing up. There's the extra Observers on the way as well. This Ghost is just having a fantastic time, cloaked up. Did more damage than he did with the nuke. By targeting down probes. I mean, MaNa puts himself in a weird spot because now the Liberators are going to kind of flank in his army, so there's not really a way out. More Libs setting up, and he's going to have to run through the Liberator gauntlet. He gets a few kills. Fortunately, the Libs obviously were a bit slow to set up, so he doesn't take too much damage. He is pushed away, though. Maybe he got just a little bit too deep there. This Ghost has just killed the entire mineral line. That's unbelievable.
He has 10 Observers, Wardy. And 6 of them are on that third.
Oh my god.
He kept on thinking he didn't have Observer, but he had an army. Like, that's my guess. He thought he had army, but no Observers, so he kept on rallying Observers there. Finally, he cleans up that Ghost. That Ghost single-handedly did all that damage. Insane. It also messed up MaNa, I think. That's why it was so awkward around the attack into souL's natural. He was also trying to deal with the Ghost. Like, that Ghost is flipping MVP right now, as it opened up the opportunity for souL to actually run on the other side of the map, continue the momentum, and now has the high ground against the Protoss player. Oh my god. Oh, jeez. That was risky. That's very risky.
I mean, it still is, really, as he's going to run this bit of bio through a storm. He does get set up in the main base, at least, but then there's a recall. Then he's going to warp in as well. I actually think MaNa can fight this not so badly. Let's see if he can deal with the Liberators in time. There's really only Liberators left, I think. It's hard to see what the heck's going on. There's so much stuff around. MaNa is going to clean up, and 20 minutes deep, this game is chaotic as souL hits another army up the right side. That's a dead base for sure. He might even get a base or two as he retreats on this right side of the map as well.
I absolutely love this game. It's fantastic. souL loses a lot of very expensive units in the air there. He lost all of his Liberators, and he lost a couple of Medivacs. that are still being chased down, because I was going to point this out like 5 minutes ago. MaNa's Phoenix have been on the right side of the map this entire time. I think at one point he forgot about them after using them for defense. I'm glad to see that he reminds himself, and now it's down to 3 medevacs. So souL really has to pick and choose between medevacs or liberators. Also, souL never got +3 armor. He took a long time to get +3 attack weapons, so some of these fights didn't even have that. And he's still down in that upgrade, really dependent on these power units, the liberators and the EMPs, which he's currently lacking.
Yep, he's trying to rebuild as many of those as possible. 4 libs and a couple ghosts on the way. It's definitely the better units to rebuild, and I can't believe MaNa got that double rich Vespian gas base up on that right side. Not got the gases on it yet, but if he can get the gases there, it might just bring him right back into a game, which I was honestly going to say is kind of feeling like a little bit more souL favored now, especially in terms of just what he has left mine. He's going to lose his double rich gas base, so that's a big deal. Disruptors scaring the army around.
Oh, but now they're alone. He scans ahead. He says, do you have any more disruptor shots? There is none. There are storms, however. Nicely done by MaNa. Excellent control of the army. He actually only showed about 1/3 of the army when all is said and done. Disruptors on the right side, more behind Gaul. Nice, nice, nice. souL does find MaNa's kind of almost secret 7th base. I don't know what you want to call this. It wasn't really mining very much, but if he finds this, he might find the Rich Vespian Geyser one. His scan reveals no base to the left, so I think he's got to figure out now it's more about the right side. It is a weird game as MaNa protects these bases that aren't even connected to any other ones. Can't wrap my head around that. And he never even got the Rich Vespian gas, and actually he's going to retreat from it. Seeing so many liberators, he says, okay, I can't actually tackle that.
Can't believe he never took the rich Vespian gases on this base, but
right?
I guess with what he's building, he didn't really need the extra gas. This is interesting as well, though, because souL is kind of getting penned into the top right-hand side. And if he gets stuck up here with no retreat path, yeah, MaNa's going to potentially surround this army. He is going to go for it, so yeah, this is scary. souL is pulling in to get a free liberator to begin with. I mean, nothing sieged up ahead of this fight. The Phoenix showing up as well. Disruptor's going to fire. He does get the target find the Disruptors, but now he's going to start storming that bio, and it's a very one-sided fight, surely. No? Hello?
Not really.
Heron?
Liberators are pretty cool when they have +2. Even the Archons getting dragged in when they absolutely did not have to be. The Stalkers really didn't target fire the Liberators that quickly. We could be talking about maybe 7 more units available for MaNa, bringing that supply up to 100, which would look a lot more even. But as you said, like, it actually looked like it was supposed to be a one-sided fight. So the fact that it was like maybe even and actually not in favor of MaNa is kind of insane. But yeah, there's just so many liberators. It was an excellent setup, and if there were disruptors on the backside, I can only imagine what would have happened then. But MaNa losing not just the fight, I mean, not super terribly, but he doesn't have the means to replace it. He was pretty much all in on that attack, and it didn't work. Whereas souL, sure, he doesn't have the Rich Vespian Geyser base, but he does have the bottom left. It's mining ouch, okay, sure, but he can replace so much more.
Yeah, as you see, I mean, a liberator up to the top. I do feel like that's the big thing for souL, right? Is just he's consistently held these 5 bases, and MaNa's kind of reset back to 4 again. And that's my biggest problem. I mean, I guess I look at the supplies just now and I see souL is so far ahead on army. And that's kind of because of MaNa having struggled to mine for a long time. Or over the course of the last few minutes, especially because souL has just been so good at denying base after base. He had that period where he killed so many probes as well in the back of that ghost, and it felt like from there, MaNa's had a little bit more trouble in this, and now he's trying to make a Voider. I guess he wants to try and get something up against Liberators, but I can't imagine he's going to get enough up to make a difference.
I don't think he will. His armor supply is in the dumpster. He doesn't have very many powerful units either. All of his Disruptors died. Most of his High Templars died. He is just on charge lots, really. A couple Stalkers, a single Colossus. Going to go into the base race, but he knows he has lost. I mean, it was kind of he was losing before that fight, but that fight was also just not as good as it was supposed to be. For so many different reasons. Like, I don't want to go into the analysis already because maybe something weird can happen. I'd be more hopeful if there were DTs and Disruptors, but not going to call it over yet. MaNa certainly isn't, as he does grab at least the orbital. Can he do much more than that?
I mean, even in a base trade scenario, MaNa just doesn't have the numbers to make the base trade work quickly enough, right? So even if you recall this army, you're going to die to everything that you're recalling into. So yeah, I think this might be safe to say that MaNa is on his last legs, but 25 minutes, and the good news is this was the series we kind of wanted it to be, rather than the series that we know it can be with souL sometimes. That's This is just even going to be the reinforcements cleaning MaNa up, and still takes a super hectic game number 1 of this best of 3 series, and is able to come out on top, a 1-0 lead, but a game 2 ahead of us.
That was fun. That was really fun. I do believe that the first problem was the first attack. MaNa was in a beautiful position. He read souL very, very well. He defended against souL stuff very well. He was absolutely in a fantastic position. And then he was like, time to go into the positioning mode, right? Like, I'm going to make you respond to my actions and my positioning. Oh, look, there's an opening. And it backfired so bad that that whole portion of PvT that's supposed to happen didn't really happen until 3 or 4 minutes later after he took damage. And then, oh my god, there was like Ghost, which I just remembered. I was Ghost. And then at the end, the fight also, I think, was one of those fights where he knew he was a bit desperate, but also he thought it just looked good, because who didn't think that looked good? Big surround of Protoss on top of a Terran, it looked amazing. But actually, what he probably should have done was just attack the right when possible to pick off those Liberators, and then kite with the left. You know what I mean? Like, draw the bio army to the left, so then the Liberators are alone. Actually engaging into all those Liberators, even though they sieged a little bit late, was, as we now know, a big problem. So many good things about that game.
Just felt like with all the bio units that were clumped up in the storms, it was just going to be about souL, but it was so easy to miss the Liberators and what they added to that fight. And, well, we go into game number 2, Eternal Empire. Definitely a map which is made for some longer games, so maybe we get scrappy once again here as souL, really fighting for almost tournament life, I feel. Needs a win to pull MaNa back close towards him and obviously take a step toward a lot of players in this group as well. Let's jump into Eternal and see if souL can make it happen. He leads 1-0, and he will be in the bottom left-hand side to start us off from Cosmos Esports. This is souL.
In the top right for Team Liquid, he is MaNa. What a game. I can only hope that the Eternal Empire gives us as good of a game. I mean, Death War really is the another macro map. I guess we don't necessarily think about it immediately just because, I mean, it is overall, I think, like the actual dimensions are a bit smaller than Eternal Empire, like left to right, right? And then the 5th base is a little more of a reach.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think the thing with Death War is it's a super easy 4 base. But the 5th base actually is that much more difficult, and in the end, it was kind of the problem MaNa had in the end, right? Like, yeah, you had a 5th base at points of this game, but mostly when souL was playing passively. As soon as souL stepped up the aggression, MaNa holding a 5th base almost seemed like an impossibility, and that's kind of the strength, I guess. Just you get to 4 bases, but it can be really tough beyond that point.
I also wonder if MaNa was maybe preparing too much for a base trade, because it almost happened like 3 or 4 times. They were in each other's 3rd or 4th or whatever. Because I'm thinking back to that Nexus, right? The 2 Nexus on the middle right of the map after he lost the top right, like, to have such a disjointed Nexus sequence, I guess, like, it usually only happens when you're getting, you know, obviously desperate, trying to hide something, or you're preparing for like a base race. So while that Rich Caspian Geyser might have been legitimately like, oh, I want to get the Saturate, I want to get the Rich Caspian Gas, the Nexus to the right of that, the one that souL found with just a single drop, I also feel like that kind of helped kill MaNa. Because imagine if that's not there and he just took back his usual 5th base, one to the top middle, or middle right. So that also was like, oh, it was a bit questionable. It's obviously a lot of things happened because it was such a hectic game. And that was just one of the more awkward ones. So I hope we can see another one like it. Stargate's opening once again, so maybe.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for the initial few moments here, definitely very similar. Obviously, souL last game went into that about to be Widow Mine drop, but he saw the Stargate, so he kind of played from there. And then when Drilling Claws, you actually wonder kind of how that looks if we go a bit differently toward it as well. So, yeah, it's could be a fun couple of moments here to see exactly what MaNa does too, because obviously there's potential to just go for an Oracle without any Phoenix. So that's also a possibility if he wants to switch it up, but I imagine he wants to go Phoenix because especially if souL likes to drop Widow Mines a lot, they're just so good at defending it.
Absolutely. A big reason, I would say, as to why that's done against souL. But it would be really cool if souL to change things up too. Kind of like, I know that you know, so I'm going to do something different. Already getting a probe is a nice start for him. Nice body blocking by MaNa, Secret Warcraft Pro. The Reaper barely saw the Stargate.
Command center, your forces are under attack.
Yeah, that's nice little setup for souL again. I think the moment you know that there's a Stargate up, you can really play around that quite nicely. He is losing some SCVs though, so in fairness, it's not bad harassment from MaNa. Less CVs down already. There's depth in the shade out, and yeah, I was actually gonna not shade out, but shade in.
Yeah.
Be very, very annoying as there's obviously the Oracle coming across the map too. Yeah, and everything's in the main, so maybe some potential in the natural. Looks like the Oracle wants to fly in the main to help out though, so I'll take it into the natural now.
Yeah. Stalker's here too. And I mean, the only thing that really kills the Marines super quickly might be the Oracle. Everything here. 2 out of 3 units in this little fight have actually been nerfed to not like 2-shot SCVs.
Yeah.
Marines. If the Adept was 2-shotting and the Oracle was 2-shotting, it'd be such a different scenario. But yeah, my point was that it's not really all that scary. It is kind of annoying for sure for souL, who if he had Cyclone and Viking now would have been no problem, but just Marines. Well, that gave him a scout, even if he, even though there was a possibility it was only an Oracle. I mean, it's Stargate, the rest of the game. They both are once again going to understand each other, I think. And it's going to be macro to macro. Oh, okay. Oh, but that's super dangerous. That's like arguably more dangerous to do than the Widow Mine drop against the Phoenix.
Yeah, the Banshees, especially when there's an Oracle that's still rocking around alive, right? Revelation available. He actually cancels the Cloak, cancels the Banshee, and he goes into the Viking. I like it.
Okay.
I don't like the Cloak Banshee at all. I think it's just too... If you kill the Oracle, maybe. But, yeah, I much prefer just a Viking in defense. The Banshee just... I mean, it makes no sense to me, but neither did the Widow Mines last game, and he won the game off it. I mean, not quite off the Widow Mines, but he still won the game, so... Didn't want to doubt too much.
Yeah. It's just interesting at all that is, the tech lab on that starport. So maybe that was his original plan, or I was going to bring up a Raven and he starts one. The Raven can be a bit difficult to do against the Phoenix as well, just because, I mean, of course, all of us scrubs out here have lost too many Ravens to that. But even amongst the pros who really babysit their units, it can be hard to use the Raven. I actually kind of like it just because I think MaNa is going to just, immediately stop building Phoenix as soon as he realizes he doesn't need them, right? He's not going to be dealing with Widow Mine drops. He's not going to be dealing with an attack, I guess, that 6 Phoenixes could help with. It's going to be more in a macro. So it's just 3 Phoenix. I actually like the Raven. And it's right in a Colossus, right? Because that's also something that Terran souL would know. It's right in that Colossus. So Interference Matrix there could be big. He's doing himself a 3rd command center, so I hesitate to say those are going to be an attack, but I guess there's some options here.
Yeah, it almost felt like he started making Banshees, and it was like maybe he wants to go like super aggressive across the map with everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was thinking about that as well, but I do like that he's not doing it.
Yeah, I kind of agree too. So like I was just kind of with you with the idea, like it kind of feels like maybe there could have been an attack, but 3CC sort of suggests otherwise. He kind of passed on that timing now, so he's just going to get into all of his upgrades, including that drilling claws, because it wouldn't be souL if he got to 8 minutes in the game and didn't have drilling claws in TVP apparently. So, yeah.
It is so odd. Like, we see maybe as part of a build, right? Classic armory cheesy build happens occasionally. But souL really thinks this is the way to go. He sees the way of the future, but I'm worried he's Dippin' Dots, and they keep saying it's the ice cream of the future, and here we are 50 years later, and it's like, are you though? I'm not super convinced about the drilling claws thing. In this instance, it wasn't the most impactful thing to his build. He got it along with his engineer base, along with his 3rd CC, but it is 100, right? It just is so weird. Plus the drilling claws that also accompanies it. But whatever. MaNa, as last game, has predicted how this is going to go. He's taking a fast 4th base again. I said he probably could have gotten a 2nd forge much faster, and I think he could have in this game too, but he's not. He's not going to do it. I do think he's going to be a lot more careful with how he pushes into souL this game. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things that definitely fell apart for MaNa in that last game, right? A couple of the fights that initially looked good for him, but he overstepped his boundaries. He ran out of a storm, and he was still on the other side of the map, and then souL chased, and that was obviously the first time we saw MaNa really lose a fight heavily. So definitely needs to be a bit more cautious this time around, as His first push now, it's going to kind of hit before ghosts or anything are up. And souL is again just setting up for the late game. Fusion cores on the way down for that liberated range. Obviously, the Ghost Academy speaks for itself. He's very ready to just go into the super late stages of this. And all that investment right now, maybe that gives MaNa the chance to, to break through on that third.
I'm getting a little bit of flashbacks, but it is a bit of a different army. So instead of having Stalkers, and I don't think he had any Archons, right? He had Storms. That army was more positional. It was let brute force. This army is a lot more brute force. The Zealot, oh, the force fields of the Zealots is absolutely beautiful. Interference between the Warp Prism and the Colossus does help for a little bit, but that's going to be the use of the Raven for the time being. This is still scary stuff for souL. These Widow Mines are also helping a lot as I don't see the Observer. They're going to get maybe a second or third shot. Here comes some more Stalkers. This might just be the killing blow, actually. Those Zealots and those force fields were so good.
Yeah, the force fields are fantastic, and now, I mean, souL's just trying to do too much at once, right? Like, he's trying to build up into Ghost and Lib range and an extra starboard, and yeah, it's just way too much at once initially, although he is starting to hold this off, and if he holds this off, he's generally in a good spot. I mean, the Prism gets a chance to warp in Zealots, so it's that extra frontline buffer once again that should allow him to keep pushing forward. Now he's got some Phoenix here to actually trade out with the Vikings as well, so the Vikings can't really focus on the Colossi at all. And souL's going to type GG for MaNa to tie this up 1-1 in the best of 3. And we are going to be going the distance, Zombie Grub. So we're going to get to all 3 maps here. And we'll go into that third map after the break.
Game number 3 is going to be on Everdream. So we got a really cool first game on Death Aura, back and forth, scrappy, a little bit awkward. Second game, that was only awkward for one person. souL did not get his chance to bring out those Liberators, to bring out that late game. MaNa, as I expected for the first game as well, but it took a little while, just knew exactly what to do against souL. Does souL's style to go right in a macro really work here for game 3, Wardy?
I mean, it can. But I think after that last game, you've got to be super careful about how you do it, because if MaNa can break you on Eternal Empire, he can absolutely break you on Everdream, that's for sure. It's definitely a tougher map to defend 3 bases on, not impossible. I feel pretty good for our Red Pros in the top right now. From Team Liquid, MaNa!
In the bottom left, as a blue Terran, he is souL. Well, I know souL can do earlier attacks. He can be aggressive. He can actually be overly aggressive, overly fancy with his attacks. Hitting there, left, right, center, up, down, A, B. Like, he can, absolutely. But it does seem like his comfort zone is the previous 2 games. And I think even though he won the first game, I would believe, if they play 8 games like that, 9 games like that, I actually think that MaNa wins 8 of them, 8 out of 9, honestly. So I don't think you do it for game number 3. souL is already maybe mixing things up here, yep, by going for an NG block. That's kind of a classic move. Don't see that too often anymore.
Yeah, I mean, souL may be making it a little bit weirder early game, try and help himself out a bit. And MaNa just is completely clueless about it. He has no idea that engineering bay is there, so he's going to move down with the probe right now, realize, and then he's going to have to start up a zealot, because otherwise that engineering bay is going to be there a very long time. And so, yeah, you kind of need the zealot to swipe your way through that, because you ain't getting Nexus anytime soon.
It does disrupt the plan here a little for the Protoss. They pros don't really go for the Nexus after gateway, but it's still, even with Sunrise coming out, it still interrupts their plan. This is more than just the engineering bay block. This is actual 1-base build, and I'm curious what 1-base build this is for a hot second there, for like literally a couple of weeks. Everyone was doing the 1-base build. Like, what was it? TY showed it in GSL, then Innovation did it, and then someone else tried it, in summer. It was literally 1-base, and it's very tricky because it has a lot of very positional units that if you don't know about it, if you don't know how to deal with it, it can get really tough really fast. Is that his plan here? Or is there some other 1-base build I'm missing?
Yeah, I mean, it could just be like a very late expansion, right? But I don't know if he really... I don't know if I'm kind of comfortable saying what's going to beat here. I like that MaNa, though, is switching this a bit. Proxy Stargate, that's a super proxy as well, so... It's a fun way to respond from having your Nexus block. There's the Starport from souL. This kind of just feels like a bit of like a Mine Marine drop into like a...
Yeah.
expansion.
Okay, so I think Hero Marine did this recently.
Yeah, he
on the
did.
finals, right?
ESL Open Cup, right?
Yeah, exactly, against...
They're out?
It was against Skillers or Gale, I don't remember which one, but I just remember being so sad for him. Yeah, that it is that, I believe. The Command Center will go down, but that's obviously very delayed. So a faster Widowmine drop that can really be awkward. Didn't that include an Armory, too? Seems like it was right up souL's alley.
Yeah, I mean, he's got his SCV to the back. Nope, that's just a depot. Yeah, no, I mean, apparently not. So it's just going to be pretty, just Marines, Widow Mines, no Armory at all, apparently. This is really bad for him. He's going to have nothing at home when this Oracle flies in.
Yeah, well, of course, now MaNa has figured out that it's a 1-base build. He actually had missed that scouting with the probe. Yeah, he knows about it now. Yeah, he could just bide his time. He could just maybe even wait for 2 Oracles, wait to see any type of move out whatsoever. It is just a Widowmine drop. Now, this is something you can just micro against. Did it hit earlier? Yes, so that might be the surprise factor, but MaNa should know that it's going to hit earlier. That is 5 Marines.
Yeah, at least the Marines are back here to deal with the Oracle, right? So, Anna's afraid as well. He doesn't quite know where the Widow Mines are. So he's just playing afraid of kind of flying straight into the mineral line. So he gets 1 SCV, which obviously isn't great, but now you just get full scout information as well. Here comes the medevac, kind of flies in an odd direction, checks the natural where there isn't any probes, so he doesn't really want to do anything there. But this is probably going to be a situation where you have to trade out at least a couple of workers. And this is the annoying part, because now you're going to lose some extra mining time, and that really does add up. And both the Widow Mines survive, so you're going to be in a position where you have to deal with that Widow Mine drop a second time around. fairly soon.
True. This is just gonna last a long time. If you had a Phoenix, I mean, even then, like maybe they can avoid it and come back later. At a current, definitely not gonna have enough stalkers. Here it comes. I don't like the drilling. The armory's done. It like he just lost the sight on it. What's it gonna grab? A single probe. It looks like exactly a single probe. So it is just invisible. Doesn't have the faster drill. But still something you get absolutely micro against. A little bit of mistake there. Lost 3 more.
Yeah, but now the Oracles have to come home as well with that armory up, so that's just a little bit of an extra annoyance on top of everything else. So yeah, Oracles have to come home and alleviate some of the pressure from souL on his side of the map, and means that he doesn't have to worry as much right now. Man, this does feel like a push, right? There's like a lot of Marines, the Vikings still being made to help against the Oracles. I think that this is potentially got potential, like with a second siege tank, to maybe just go across the map and to really fight, especially on Everdream. You can bunker up on the low, with no ramp up into the natural. We'll see if souL wants to make a bid for that in the near future or not, as he's still just pumping out Marines and tanks.
It is what Here Marine did. So that's what I would have expected, but it might have been because Here Marine thought he was already winning. It was going to be really good. So if it wasn't souL, I would have said yes. And well, it is souL, and he does put on a 3rd CC. So, but this is now there's a problem though. Like he has all these units that are still pretty good in an attack, but if he doesn't use them, he has 4 Vikings. Dealing with the Oracle, but like how much later are we talking if he's not going to attack anytime soon? Like thankfully he does move out. I was afraid he was going to really turtle, like 8-minute, 9-minute attack, not 6 minutes. But I like this so much better. Pull just a couple of SCVs. The scout is good. And now MaNa does have to figure out how do I handle this. The Vikings will take down the Oracles very quickly. His 3rd Nexus is vulnerable. No shield batteries available there. No stasis traps to even try and buy some time. There's a Guardian Shield to help. But his Adepts are even out of place a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like there's just not that much for MaNa right now. I mean, defending on this 3rd base location especially seems kind of scary. At least the tanks weren't sieged at the start of this right now. Let go of the Oracles. It still feels like there's an okay amount of Marines left. Maybe not enough, though. Vikings will land to help on the ground. The tanks have fallen. It feels like it's obviously a trade-out, but there's not really like that much continued pushing power here from souL. And he's not going to take the Nexus down super quickly. I'd be surprised if MaNa couldn't stop this with another round of units. There's Immortal now here as well. And he's going to start chipping away at bits and pieces, but souL's got reinforcements showing up as well at the same time.
Ooh, that tank. I mean, now Phoenix is still very, very useful. Not going to target fire that down. He wants to stop. He wants the Immortal, too, and he's almost getting the Immortal. Grabs another Stalker. Tank ends up, of course, living. Nothing could kill it. So he took it out of the equation. He still didn't actually stop this push, and souL is going to take the opportunity to continue pushing. This is actually really awkward. It is such a slow push with very few units. I thought souL might give up. Maybe MaNa did, too. But now MaNa, he needs a shield battery and he needs faster reinforcements. He keeps on reinforcing from his natural. Okay, souL's going to respect it. souL's not going to overstay. That's probably the right call.
Well, just pulling back down this bottom left-hand side. Going to go all the way down and get back home. MaNa holds on to 3rd base rather comfortably in the end, right? Yes, it was a trade-out, and comfortable might sound like a weird word, but like, it wasn't close to dying, He had more time if he had to back away again and get a couple more units. So I think overall, you can be pretty happy with that. And at the same time, souL looks at this and he's like, well, I got rid of the Oracles. I traded out for a good, a bunch of units. Only lost 2 siege tanks in the end. souL is going to take a quick PP. You had a lot of pauses tonight, Zombie Grove.
Yeah, what's with that? I mean, maybe it's the European server, but I guess one of them was just a guy shutting his door.
So, souL frequently has just a little bit of lag, like 10 seconds or so. Like his internet goes a bit wonky, so we'll get that sorted out. We'll resume this game 3 of what is our 4th match in Europe this evening. Even more TVP coming up in the future too, as we've got Clem taking on Geralt. And of course, a lot of matches from North America as well. So a fun evening of StarCraft still ahead of us here in the DreamHack SC2 Masters, as we just wait for souL to get some better internet again.
Yeah. We thought maybe it was going to be a little bit faster today with that opening, but, souL.
Yeah.
souL and DNS maybe ruined that hope a little bit. So if you were around for the past 2 days, they went pretty long. That's a lot of StarCraft too. And I actually am really excited for the North American matches. Like Fear Dragon likes to say any NA player can be NA player. So Taking something to be very back and forth. But we're finally back into the game. You can hear the sounds. Phoenix are killing SCVs. A decent number of them with the help of some adepts in the third base. Zealots, actually.
On the third base, yeah. And they're going to go on top of a tank that might get friendly fire down. SCV repairs good and the unsiege. So that's going to get cleaned up. 11 workers get killed. So MaNa strikes back and gets 11 SCVs just like that.
That was really nice. That was... I mean, before the 11 SCVs, it would have been very close to even on the workers. I give the account for the triple mule, that still makes it pretty okay. But that was nice because also the warp prism lived. And now souL just knows he has to deal with the warp prism, which is ever obnoxious for a Terran player. Never depowered the Stargate either, so I find it funny that we've had an increase in Phoenix, but we have enough to scout, enough to stall out, enough to add just a couple more SCVs killed. And into the late game we go. That's what this is. That's what the souL games are giving us. And MaNa, it's a bit more of an awkward start, but I think he could get into the similar position of being able to bully souL and or find those openings.
Well, as MaNa just takes his fourth base out in the front, souL is starting up the Ghost Academy. This is where we're really going to find out how souL wants to play this, right? Because the Ghost Academy right now isn't weird. What would be weird if he also starts throwing down that fusion core and if he's just going to do the same as before, but he's not really doing that. So maybe souL taking a step away from that overall, like, let's just play a super late game kind of setup.
Oh, Wardy.
Hello.
I think it's a liberator.
What?
I'm waiting for the fusion core.
I mean, like, if he drops it down, then sure, but not dropped it down yet, has he?
Well,
There's the second starport, so it's only a matter of time. I get what you're saying, but when I said it, he hadn't dropped it down yet.
I'm giving you shit.
I realized.
It actually is kind of a question now, though. He's a bit late to it, but I guess with the awkwardness with the opener, a little bit of denial on the third base, his gas hasn't been absolutely perfect. So he's going to have to pick and choose for a little while longer what to actually afford with his gas. MaNa has already got his fourth base saturated with a gas included. Again, as I was saying, he's going to be able to bully souL. He's going to have maybe that slightly better army depending on the positioning. And he's going to try and use it and abuse it. Maybe not feeling so confident then and there. He was missing an observer to take care of the Widow Mines. And where is that warp prism? Oh, there it is. Oh, look at that. It's on the main base.
So it's going to charge on through, and a bit of bio showing up to kind of push that back. But at the same time, MaNa's pushing up the front. So this fourth base has to evacuate his position. MaNa, I mean, this is kind of a similar idea to what he had in the last game, right? It's like, right, I'm going to show up around now and kind of just push through and win. There's still a lot of units in the main. Those couple of tanks definitely scary. Don't think this is a fight MaNa wants to take, not unless there's a lot more zealots, but as the warp-ins, there is still potential.
I don't think you want to go into that. That is a great concave for the Terran. They got the tank siege. He even had a bunker from
but now he's pulled everything out of the right-hand side. Yeah, he just left nothing back on this left side. So MaNa's just going to stab over here, and force fields are really good to push this army back and to keep it from getting back in position. And suddenly MaNa just kills 15 workers and has units in the main base as well, which are likely to get some damage too. Yes, lost the prism, but that's still a lot of zealots and probably even more SCV kills. So souL's economy is taking a beating now. He's got a huge army supply advantage, so maybe souL can go across the map and get something done. And that's going to be MaNa's main concern right now. The next minute or two of this game, if he loses this Phoenix. Oh wow, souL, here we go.
Maybe he can do it. It's going to be maybe a slight upgrade lead as we get into the battle. This is actually going to be a tough hold for MaNa, but in worst case scenario, you can always use the chokes. And well, now he's going to maybe have his own choke used against them. Doom drop into the main base. MaNa is trying to... Okay, now he knows about it. Yep. He's got a disruptor on the way, which might make things awkward, but if it is only a single disruptor, his own gateways are kind of blocking him out, but he's got the concave. He's going in for the kill. The tank's providing some extra damage, but they're getting jumped on by the Archons. Disruptor helped out there too, and the Colossus are just tearing the bio apart. While this bio does found the fourth base.
Oh, the Widow Mines. The Widow Mines is going to reburrow Stalkers. Going to start going down. Oh, that was actually a pretty cute play from souL, realizing he had an opportunity there. I mean, souL saved a lot in the main base as well, right? So he's got a good amount of units coming back down to the center here. I think he's eventually just going to start outnumbering MaNa in a pretty big way. MaNa's already on his way back to the main as he seems to expect this drop coming back through. And souL, he drops right. And you know what souL can see? You can just see Templar Archives, easy pickings, Robo, easy pickings perhaps. Now he'll settle for the pylon. He's actually just going to go for a bunch of pylons. He could empower forges. He also plays it safe and gets out of there in time.
No, this is dangerous. MaNa has not cleared things up. This is still a big army supply deficit for him. And now the upgrades are even in favor of souL too. I think he has to give up a base. He has to reposition, and it's not going to look pretty with Liberators now joining the fray. This army does not have medevacs, so that is the one problem with this army. But the other problem is the medevacs still have the army in the main base. MaNa is being pulled apart, maybe regretting actually investing so much into that third base attack, which didn't even get the command center, just got the SCVs. This is not a bad defense. It looks like finally bringing down those heavier army types, the Colossus, the Archons. They do manage to clear through the bio and just enough socks through those Liberators. It's because every other unit is in the main base. souL, I mean, maybe he is getting a little too fancy. Maybe he's pulled himself apart a little bit too much. That fight in the right really did not go super well for him, but he might grab the Nexus after already grabbing the Templar Archives and delaying one of those upgrades. This game is still possible for both players, but it did just get weird.
Yeah, I feel like souL was so indecisive in the main base. He kind of targeted this and that. In the end, he gets the Nexus, which is a nice add-on, considering he did deny the fourth base. So MaNa's limited in what he's mining. souL only just resetting his own fourth base right now, though. So, well, this is going to be certainly the roles of maybe reversed, where MaNa is able to counterattack and maybe get something done. But that fourth is a planetary, so that's going to be a difficult position to push into initially. There's Liberators out, which are defensive kings, of course, and maybe still just has a little bit too much anyway. I mean, those 3 Colossi and the 3 Archons are like the scary part of this, and even then, they're not that scary as the drop is even back and going to put the pressure on. I mean, well, really not scary if they get jumped on, but that disruptor shot was good.
Dang. That was a fantastic disruptor shot. If only it had saved the Colossus, though. An EMP on top of the Archon is absolutely perfect, although it didn't take all the shields away. MaNa, I mean, he's totally all in. He's not replaced his main Nexus, and he's going to have to crack Liberators. It's actually not going well already, losing so many Stalkers in the attempt to break into that main base. He can't break in. The Colossus gets sniped for no reason, really, whatsoever, as MaNa is distracted back at home, trying to clear things up. Or is he pulling probes against that? He was pulling probes against that.
There's just nothing really here, right? I mean, he does get in range of a shield battery. souL remembers to stim, and suddenly that fight turns around. MaNa is in the main base of souL, though, so souL's production is now camped. It's going to be difficult to get anything out, especially from the starport, for example. This Liberator shouldn't be able to do much. It's just a souL too far ahead on the base rate, I think, initially. Yeah, he absolutely is, right? He's, still got that planetary fortress, remember, and that alone is going to be an investment to get rid of from MaNa at this point.
Yeah, exactly. souL is still mining, but he just can't produce. He's going to be able to replace that eventually, and MaNa can't. I don't think he can produce. I don't think he can eventually protect his own base. He's hoping for an actual base race, which a planetary really does put a damper on things. He has enough resources to have made like 2 Immortals, which would have helped, but he couldn't make any more disruptors of Colossus. He lost the Robotics Bay, and now he's going to lose the Robos. This is a matter of time. Unless MaNa could find the army, and he does recall, even that's not a guarantee.
You're recalling away from, like, I'm not even going to call it as one hope, but you're recalling away to let souL continue mining, reset your production, reset his production, and then what, right? You're kind of penned in here with the Liberators, so you're not exactly in a good spot. You're surviving on one base, your natural, which is obviously 17 minutes deep, pretty close to being mined out. I just don't understand. I don't know what MaNa's play is. I don't think there necessarily is a play for him. He's going to have to try to take this fight. Super Battery activates, the bio will stim in, and he will work his way through the Liberators, so good effort from MaNa. He's doing better than I thought he would, but even still right now, as souL trades, he gets himself into a better and better spot because he's picking off so many of the important units. Again, even if he trades this army out, he has got the production back up, and he's building 10 bio units at once. And MaNa will go across the map to try and end it once more.
That might just be it. MaNa can maybe get a couple more units to help him out, but how does he ever crack the planetary? And so he just basically never does. If he had killed literally every single other base by now, I'd still be hopeful. But he's still got a couple of orbitals to chew through. Barracks are being hidden at this point, and with the planetary being the command center, it's not like it's still ever to be revealed. I mean, I commend MaNa's. I love that he's still in this game because the supplies are telling a bit of a different tale. Like, it's telling a very hopeful tale for MaNa. It's just that planetary. But then again, stalkers are denying the mining on it. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's production, right? So souL is producing, and he's got more units that just kind of scattered right now. But if he brings them together, because he's got a good army in the top left that's on its way down, even just those Marines, like, alone, they're not great. But if they join up with a couple medevacs and everything else, it becomes a bio army that can really compete. Again, the biggest issue is forever going to be the planetary fortress.
Yeah. If that had been what he had cracked with it, you know, for the attack that led to this, the one that had souL just go, okay, I need to do something. If that had killed the planetary, this is a very different game. But it didn't even kill the orbital. This orbital is going to go down and a starport, but MaNa, this is not what he needs to do. He needs to actually find those. Well, he knows about the barracks. He needs to get to those barracks and deny their production. I think he's just basically right now, he's 100% losing the game by letting the barracks produce as long as they are. So, I mean, maybe he finds these production facilities and that's great, but what about the top left? Dark Shrine, excellent investment from MaNa. Big thumbs up there. You can barely even afford a Dark Templar.
Makes sense, but there's still 2 orbitals on the map. Obviously, it can still work if there's not scans available, but how much is 1 or 2 DTs? Like, if he suddenly has like 6 DTs, then sure, maybe he can shut it down, force orbitals to lift off, but 1 or 2 DTs? Even if there's no scans immediately available, I'm not sure how much time that really buys you.
Yeah. He knows the barracks are producing too. Like, he knows he's forever getting behind. And even the fact that he has to wait for the Dark Shrine, much less, you know, what can it even do? Like, that's a big problem. He gets a bit sandwiched. The blink backs do not work out too well. Loses about half of his stalkers and maybe more as he finds the reinforcements. This is going to be it. A bit of an upset considering their current forms together. Considering souL, I guess, not doing so hot against some other Protosses in the group. But it is souL's game. He's won this one.
Yeah, he's got this one under control as MaNa has 3 stalkers over here, 2 observers, and 16 probes. And a Dream which lies in a couple of Dark Templar, I think, that are about to warp in. So he's going to test the waters with the DTs. The moment they get scanned, we will see GG. If it's not actually before then, he will definitely try with the DTs, though. So credit to him. He's trying everything he can. I mean, important match. We talk about how close Group C is going to be. Every one of these matches will be important.
Yep. Scan missed the Dark Templars, and while usually you would say, of course, they're going into Dark Templars, there's probably a question if MaNa can even afford them. So this is going to be an initial surprise. And now it's not a surprise anymore. Scan, pop.
Yep. I mean, it's like, this is kind of sad. Like, there's really nothing left. Just going to see Natural in trouble. Couple DTs to the map, and MaNa will give